fastest show in sports.
We find ourselves in a very difficult situation from a broadcast standpoint and a journalist standpoint. I'm going to get to that in just a second, but I want to just set that tone because I don't want anybody to think that for the next portion of the show, we are going to wax political. But we do have to get into the politics here a little bit and see how it affects us and where the conversation goes when it comes down to reporting sports, which is what we're here for. Most of you, I'm sure, if not all of you, know what has happened in the last several days in the taping of this show. That Jimmy Kimmel has been suspended temporarily at ABC from his late-night talk show. That it involves a segment of government. It involves the FCC. It involves decisions by ABC and Disney. Remember, we're not going to get political here. Okay, this is not going to denigrate down into a Democrat versus Republican battle, but set the stage. If you have not seen or heard what exactly got him suspended, this is what happened.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. Okay. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay? And it didn't just happen once.
When I heard it, I was in the midst of, building a great, for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects that would design. It's going to be incredible. And they came in, they said, Charlie Kirk is dead. I didn't know what they meant. I said, he was dead. Charlie Kirk was shot. And they thought he was dead because it was so horrific, Mm-hmm. And I said, dead.
And then we installed the most beautiful chandelier. Sconces, you wouldn't believe. There's something wrong with them. There really is. I mean, who thinks like that? And why are we building a $200 million ballroom in the White House? Is it possible that he's doing it intentionally so we could be bad about that instead of the Epstein list? By the time he's out of office, the White House will have slot machines and a water slide.
Let's take this from the first position, okay? Comedy is necessary in America and necessary in our lives. Did Jimmy Kimmel go over the edge? Maybe. In a couple of areas he did. He certainly called the President of the United States a 4-year-old, and that's not going to make anybody happy. But then comedians do that all the time. Every single time. It doesn't make a difference if you go to a local show, or if you're on a national show, or if you watch Netflix, or if you go to a concert. Comedians are going to offend somebody. It's not a big deal. You let it go. You let it wash over your head. You just walk away from it. Because the more stink you make about it, the worse it gets. But Kimmel did what Kimmel does. Now, again, this is not about my telling you got to like Kimmel or you got to agree with it or you got to dislike the people who are involved in going after him. That's not the point here. The point is now those of us who cover sports for a living, and I know this may sound a little trivial, but even we have now been put on our heels. And I need to think about it as well. Because if jokes like this bring about a government crackdown, if humor like this, whether you like the humor or not, brings with it the possibility of losing a job, losing sponsors, losing a career. You got to sit and think about it now, because that's what's happened. It's not just Kimmel who's out in this. It's his entire staff. All those people involved are no longer working. Their lives have been affected. For what? For a couple of jokes that are no big deal? But that's not the point. The point is the action has been taken. And from my perspective, those of us who are on the air, and it's not just here on podcasts or YouTube or any other special show, but those who do shows for the major networks, those who get tens of thousands and millions of viewers and listeners every single day, the ones who are on the national shows, the pregame shows for the NFL, the ones who do baseball programming right now, the ones who call hockey games, the people who call basketball games, NBA, WNBA, makes no difference, or those who are just talk show hosts. Because let's face it, our job is to get you to scratch an itch. Our job is to get you riled about something, discussing something, talking about something, but that's our job. It's what we do. But can we do it now? Can we do it with any certainty that we're not going to be next? As I came out on this show today, I said some things about Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. I said he should be fired. I basically alluded to the fact that he looks like a social studies student coming out of elementary school. I made a couple of assertions. I made a couple of jokes. I made a couple of snaps. I made a couple of opinions in saying that he needs to. I said Chris Greer for the Dolphins needs to be fired. I made some choices that, if things are different, could come back to haunt me. Everybody can. Most of you will say, wait a minute, just opinion. But that's part of the point. What Jimmy Kimmel did was opinion. It was comedy, but it was opinion. And he's been punished for it. We who are in this business today, we're the guys and the gals who come out and say, hey, that team sucks, and this player needs to be fired, and this woman has never really ever been a good competitor in her life, and this one cheated, and this one took steroids, and this one is guilty of beating up his girlfriend. We come out and say the most outrageous things, because that's what talk radio is about. That's what it's all about. It's about educating, sure, but it's also about saying outrageous things that people start to talk about. That's what we're here for. That's why you're here. Because you want to hear this stuff, and you want to get into that discussion, and you want to get into the argument, and you want to have the debate, and you want to yell and scream and holler at the screen, whomever is on that other side. That's what we do. That's what you do. But are we at a stage where we can't do it anymore? Are we at a stage where now, those of us who do it, even you, let's say you're on a call-in show. You're on a call-in sports talk show. You call back in, somebody says something about the head coach of your football team, and you go off on a rant. Oh, this guy sucks. This guy's the worst. You see how he treats his family. You see how he treats his dog. You see what he does? He's destroying the franchise. He's costing us money. He's doing things that are not going to make us a winner. And I'm sick and tired of it. And he's just a son of a bitch. You throw it out there. Well, you just sort of went over the edge, didn't you? You didn't tell jokes, but you went over the edge in your opinion about somebody. So is it possible that you're going to be next? It's possible. Unfortunately, where we're at right now, it's possible. And it's being made more possible every single day. And this doesn't have anything to do with left, right, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. I don't care if you worship at the altar of a wet mop. It doesn't make a difference. Because both sides and everybody is now involved in this discourse. And the words are flying fast and furious. Somebody's wrong. Somebody's going too far. And a lot of times in sports talk radio, we go really far. We go over the edge. We've been doing it for 100 years. We may as well keep doing it. Of course, everything we say is couched in being opinion. And opinion should be allowed to flow. But maybe it won't be. Maybe opinion is the next thing that's going to be struck. And if that happens, we're screwed. And so are you. You lose your entertainment. You lose the shows you like. You may not even, somebody may find out that you're the person who got on the line and you said certain things about a coach. You said disparaging things about a coach or a player, and somebody then is going to sue you because you injured their life. That's where we're at. We may have to just chuck this whole thing one way or another sooner or later. Shouldn't have to. We should be allowed to make comments and opinions. That's what talk shows are for. And especially on sports talk shows where we really go over the edge sometimes. But it could be coming to an end. Be concerned about it. I'm not saying it's happening right now, but it could, and that becomes a real issue.
That's all, folks.